People ask me all the time, Sabado, if you could go back, what would you do differently before retiring early? And honestly, there's a whole list of stuff. Some things I nailed, others, let's just say I learned the hard way. And I want to help you skip those mistakes. So today, I'm sharing 5 things I wish I knew before I walked away from my 9 to 5 for good. And as you're watching, I want you to think, which of these would be the biggest challenge for me? When we talk about retirement, most people obsess over the question, do I have enough money? And yes, that's important. But here's what I didn't fully get until I was in it. Retirement is a mental and emotional game too. If you don't know how you're going to spend your days, how you're going to feel useful, how you're going to feel fulfilled, and connected, you could end up bored, you could end up restless, or even depressed. One of the biggest risks, and I talk about it in an old video of mine, is the risk of depression, because you have a peer group that doesn't understand what life is like without being gainfully employed. And so, I think, I implore you to ask yourself this question. What's the first thing you'd want to do if you retired tomorrow? Drop it in the comments, and I might get some new ideas. But for me, I am a man of hobbies. Many of you know I'm a master gardener with the UC Master Gardener program. I volunteer. I play golf. My wife and I know it's a vice. A vice is an overextension of a virtue, and I'm not going to say it's virtuous, but we like to go to casinos. But the thing is what's most important is whatever you do with your life, having the right balance. And I'll be honest with you, I thought I'd step into retirement and instantly be in a hammock somewhere with zero stress. Reality check, message, the first 6 months, they were kind of strange. My routine disappeared, identity shifted, people started to look at me differently, and my calendar, it's wide open, and that for better or for worse. I didn't have a lot of things that I had to do, and I make the joke that you could do whatever it is you want to do or nothing at all. But ask yourself, if your work schedule disappeared tomorrow, what would your day look like? What would excite you or freak you out? What would you do differently? It's okay to feel strange at first. That's normal, but you have to plan for that adjustment period. Something else nobody really talked about, and I've gotten some of this in the comments, is around healthcare. Nobody told me, healthcare would be this big of a piece of the puzzle. It's not just about paying for it. It's about navigating the plans, the hidden costs, and the stress of making sure that you're covered. My wife and I are fortunate that we had employers that allowed us to stay on the group plan, so we are able to continue to navigate in ways that we were familiar with. But for a lot of us, let's say you step out, and a lot of early retirees go on the ACA plans, which are the Affordable Care Act plans, as a way to continue care, because it's one of the ways to subsidize care at a lower cost. But it's difficult sometimes navigating these new plans. Going from, let's say, a Kaiser to a Health Net to a Blue Cross, they have different ways of doing things, and that gets complicated. And that's something that, if you're not used to it, it could become difficult. And as well as the costs. Most of the time, as an employee, your employer's paying most of your costs. And so the fact that you have to come out and pay $500, $600, $700 a month, it's not insurmountable if you put together your plan, but it's something that you have to plan for and you have to be ready for. And, for those of us that are in the U.S., what's your biggest worry about healthcare and retirement? I see it coming up a lot in the comments, and I'm really interested in understanding, for you, what's your biggest concern about retirement? And do your homework, and it's early. It's important to do your homework early, because there's some major things that go on in retirement that if you're not ready for them, you'll be able to overcome them, but it just creates the anxiety that you were running away from when you're doing the work thing in the first place. And it's way easier to solve the problem, before you leave your paycheck behind. When I was working, I'd always say it's easier to find another job while you still have a job, because then you don't look desperate. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I got to keep it a buck with you. But it's also easier to understand and solve the healthcare problem while you're still working. What are you going to do for healthcare? And if you have that idea, and you may not have 100%, but I'm an 80% dude. So I go in, if I have 80% of the problem, I figure I could figure out the other 20%, because when I was in college, I learned very early on that 80% was still a passing grade. The other thing I didn't anticipate and nobody talked to me about was the reactions that people were going to have when I retired. When I told people I was retiring at 51, there were a few people that were excited for me. I had some people that are like, yeah, this is great. Others, they were drinking a little bit of the haterade. They were ambivalent at best. They didn't say that's horrible that you're retiring, but as we like to say, they were kind of acting funny style, and things change. And I started to hear things like, well, it must be nice, that passive aggressive, as I call it, chicken crap stuff. Either, it's must be nice, or I could never do that. And it's like, well, why couldn't you ever do that? And what I started to notice is that some people, started to pull away. And so you have to be ready for that shift in relationships, and you have to be confident in your decision. I always believe that success or luck, I always believe that luck is when planning meets opportunity. And if you do the right planning and you have your plan there, now you have the opportunity to step away from work and do what you want to do when you want to do it, or nothing at all. Don't let anybody dissuade you, because why let the haters that didn't do the work project their feelings of inadequacy on you and then change what you have, changing your master plan? Because, you've been spending all these years thinking of a master plan and got nothing but sweat inside your hands. And now here you are, so don't let them dissuade you. And if you retired early, who do you think would be your biggest cheerleader? And who might not get it? Because there's going to be some folks, and as much as I love you, fam, and as much as everybody else loves you, there's going to be some people that don't get it. So just who are those people? Let me know in the comments. Again, all these questions I'm asking, it's interesting because it's, I learn in the comments from all of you, just because I know what I experienced and I try to share that with you. But sometimes I feel like I'm crazy, like it's just me. Well, maybe Sabado, you're just a knucklehead, and maybe I was, but it's interesting to know, what other people's experiences are. So here's the truth. Early retirement has been one of the best decisions of my life, but it's not a nonstop vacation. There's trade-offs, and that's okay. And so I'm going to stop there real quick. The best decision of my life was marrying my wife. My wife, I can't even say enough. If I say too much, then that means I'm loving on her too hard. And if I love on her too hard, it's going to seem superficial. And like I said, I'm always going to keep it real with you. But that was the best decision of my life. My second best decision was retiring early. Back to your regularly scheduled message. And I wish I had understood that sooner, so I could have embraced the journey and not expect the perfection that maybe I expected, because some of this stuff was difficult. The change in relationships and the reactions and so on, some of that was difficult. But had I done it sooner and embraced the fact that was going to happen, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue, which is part of why I'm lacing you up with this GAME right now. And what would you be okay with, would you be okay with some of the trade-offs that you would have to make if it meant gaining some of your time back? There's this movie called Fallen, and Denzel Washington was like, time is on my side. Yes, it is. And there's a real song. And if you know the name of that song, leave it in the comments, because it was a cool song. I just can't find it to put it on my Apple Music playlist. But anyway, I digress. So if you're thinking about early retirement, start planning for more than just the money. Plan for your lifestyle, your relationships, and your mental health, because that's what makes it all sustainable. And if you missed my last video, and I'll leave that and you'll see it's somewhere here. But if you missed my last video, was it worth it? And what I gained and gave up to retire early, go watch that next. It's the perfect companion to this one. And if you found this helpful, hit subscribe. You don't want to miss next week's video. And so I'm going to cut it short here. And I just want to say we reached 1,000 subscribers over the last couple of days. So fam, thank you. I'm glad you're rocking with me. I'm here for you. I got you. Leave me comments, leave me notes, send me email, because I try to respond to every comment, at least the first one, because you all start talking to each other and it becomes a whole different situation. But leave me those comments and just know that, this is an inclusive space for all of us to be able to learn from somebody who did it. And it's never my expectation that everybody retire early, because I know it's not realistic for everybody. But I do think it's my expectation everybody live their best life. So on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.